going on, everyone? Manny back here once again. Welcome back to DFS Zone, your source for daily fantasy sport lineup advice for the NFL. Soon, very soon, we'll be covering the NBA as well. And I have a brand new video for you guys I would love to share with you. I am going to go over Week 4 NFL best possible tight end plays and the best possible defenses that we should be considering this week. Before I get started with the video, of course, I appreciate you guys drop a like. I would greatly appreciate that. It definitely helps my channel out a lot. It also tells me that you do appreciate the information that I'm sharing with you. If you're new to the channel, I'm glad you're here for the first time. Fantastic. Welcome to the channel. Definitely subscribe down below. Put on your post notifications if you are looking to get information for the NFL on a weekly basis, day to day, all the way through all the positions. I do a positions video pretty much every day, and I do a live show on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. right here at DFS Zone on YouTube. Other than that, I'll be covering the NBA as well. So if you're looking to do NBA DFS in the next few weeks, man, it's going to be really good. You're going to get a video every single day, and there's going to be a few live shows for that on a weekly basis, probably during the week, nothing on the weekend, but we're going to definitely have some last look live shows as well. So if you are interested in that, definitely subscribe down below, put on your post notifications, and hey, become part of the DFS Zone family. All right, with that all being said, let's touch on this week's Week 4, the best possible tight end plays. Now, there's a lot of tight ends in play. I normally don't pay up on tight ends. I've said that since the very first week that I started doing videos here for the NFL a few weeks ago for you guys. I did say that I love paying down on tight ends and look for a little bit of value. So as much as some of these guys up here in the top may be pretty intriguing, a couple of them have questionable tags on them, I'm going to go rate that straight down to Chicago's Trey Burton. I am interested in Trey Burton this week, 5,600. He is 3,900 on DK. I love his price on DK. Definitely a price that you can definitely work with in DraftKings. Very athletic tight end, man. That's what I really like. He's coming in 15 targets, 9 receptions, only a 60% catch rate percentage, but he's doing okay there. 90 yards, 10 yards per catch, and he did have he's averaging about 30 yards per game. He has had 7. We look here. He's had 7 or better fantasy points in 2 straight games, so he has improved. He has a total of, 15 targets, as you can see. 55 yards in the last game on 4 targets. I mean, that was a pretty good outing for Trey Burke here. In the red zone, he has had 2 opportunities. He has caught both passes, 100% catch percentage there, 18 yards for a touchdown. I like also that he's on about 51% of the Chicago snaps, so he is getting a little bit of action. He's getting more than enough action to get targets, and he's also been targeted. He has had about 19 to 20% touches in the course of the actual snaps during the course of the game. They're going up against Tampa Bay, man. Tampa Bay, they're dead last in as far as pass defense. They're giving up 363 yards per game and 7 touchdowns to the opposition. They also have given up the most yardage to tight ends out of all the teams in the league. 329 yards to tight ends this year on 25 receptions with 1 TD, coughing up a whopping 22.3 DK and 17.1 FanDuel points to tight ends, to the tight end position. In the red zone, coughing up 88.8% of the opponent's opportunities in the red zone, they have converted. We're talking about 3 opportunities per game for the opponents, and they're putting in 2 touchdowns and a field goal per game. Chicago, on the other hand, the offensive side of them, 3.5 opportunities per game, 1 TD, 1 field goal. They definitely have to improve in that department, only converting at about 40%. But nonetheless, they're going up against a team that gives up quite a bit more. I see this as an opportunity for Chicago. This is also going to test to see how well Chicago can handle a high-power offense like Tampa Bay. They've been just like lights out, putting up massive amount of points. So with Chicago coming in as one of the better pass rushing teams, we will see how this pans out. But I love quite a bit of Trey Burke here. He's averaging 6.6 fantasy points and 8.1 on DK. All right, guys. I love him in this matchup. I think that he has a great opportunity to do well here. So he is one of the tight ends I'm looking at. Next guy I'm going to discuss that I think is a fine play this week is Mr. David Njoku. David Njoku. I'm loving a little bit of David Njoku, and the reasons why, I'm going to tell you why. Okay, one, obviously Baker Mayfield. In the preseason, they had played a few games. He had gotten a couple of targets thrown to him by Baker, and they connected, and they were really working in sync with each other very well in the preseason. Saw the highlights, and I had a look at them again just before deciding that I am definitely thinking of targeting this kid. But in the preseason, he has 6 receptions, 71 yards, and 2 touchdowns thrown to him by Baker Mayfield. And now Baker Mayfield is his starting quarterback. Now I see David and being able to be a very big integral part of this offense as they go along. We're talking about a very athletic, okay, young man, lean, trim, athletic, got good speed, got strength. He is impressive. He's willing to dive for balls. He's willing to dive for extra yardage. I've seen it all in the preseason and highlights. He looks like a very impressive tight end. He has had 16 targets this year thus far, 9 receptions, 69 yards, 7.7 yards per catch. I can see him really gelling with Baker Mayfield. It's going to open up the doors, because if they start shadowing and they start really defending well against Landry, who's a really good seams type of run padding receiver, then they got the gun in, they got the speedster in Callaway, and now they got this guy in the middle there, the dump out passes, the short passes, Njoku, who can break through and can break free from tackles with his strength and his speed, and can definitely gain a lot of fantasy points and a lot of yardage in games. I really like this kid. I think this is a great opportunity. Him with David, with Baker in the backfield as his quarterback. They're going up against Oakland. They're 19th in pass defense. They've given up 258 yards per game, 6 TDs. Against tight ends, not a whole lot, but let me just read this out. 13 targets, 10 receptions, 105 yards. They have given up 0 touchdowns. Only 6.8 DK points and 5.2 FanDuel points, which is the 5th lowest in the league towards tight ends. So the first thing, why you're probably saying, why is Manny suggesting that we go with David Njoku? Now, the reason I'm going with that is because when I look further, when you see numbers like this, and you know Oakland is 0-3, you want to know, why is it that the tight ends are not converting against the Oakland team? Well, the very most important thing, the first 3 games they've played against the Rams, the Broncos, and the Dolphins, and none of those players, they don't have no elite tight end there. Not to say that David is, but this is a more athletic, very good hands, good speed tight end with a lot of potential, and obviously I see him with a lot of upside in the very near future with Baker as his quarterback. But this is where I feel that that's the difference. They haven't really, Oakland has not faced a team that has a couple of good, solid weapons. Now, granted, the Miami Dolphins are 3-0, and the Rams are also 3-0. These 3 teams don't have that star-studded tight end, they can break tackles that you could fear in that line, and that you can go to on check downs or on short pass patterns. I believe this is where Baker Mayfield with David Njoku are going to be able to do well. Now, opponent-wise, 50% conversion ratio for the opponents against Oakland. They have had 3 opportunities in the red zone and converting at 1 touchdown and 1 field goal. So they have actually held fairly well there at 50%, their opposition in the red zone, but not a whole lot of opportunities for Oakland as well as the opponents in the red zone with either side. So I see here with Cleveland a great opportunity for David and Baker to really move downfield, maybe even get in the red zone. I see this kid being able to have more than 3 or 4. I would say probably he's going to have about 5 to 7 targets, probably on a regular basis in this offense with Baker Mayfield in it. So David Njoku is definitely in play for me. I think he's someone you guys should definitely consider. My next gentleman that I'm going to discuss on DraftKings and as well as FanDuel is Tyler Eifert. I think Tyler Eifert also in a situation, high-scoring game here. Both teams have tight ends that definitely get involved in the offense. I just think that Tyler Eifert is going to have a better opportunity, or is going to have better chances with his offense that they run in Cincinnati as opposed to Hopper for the Atlanta Falcons. But here he is. I mean, fantastic. 4,600. He's 3,800 on DK, so he's playable in either one of the platforms. 15 targets, as you can see here, thus far this year. 11 receptions, 141 yards. Has no touchdowns yet, but I like the fact that he's definitely capable of getting you 10. He can get you more than that. I've seen him put up 12 to 13 last year a few times. Tyler Eifert in the red zone. He hasn't had no opportunities yet this year, so they haven't targeted him there. but he has a good connection with Andy Dalton, and I can expect him to get 5 to as much as 8 targets again, and hopefully be in the same position to put in another 10 to 12 fantasy points this week. And going up against Atlanta, Atlanta's 26 in pass defense, 276 yards per game and 6 TDs. That's what they've given up to the opposition. They also have been pretty good against tight ends. They only have given up 11 receptions, 150 yards, 9.7 DK points, and 7.3 FanDuel points. But again, same thing as with Eifert as well as Njoku, is they have played against Philadelphia, Carolina, and New Orleans. And when I looked further, Mr. Ertz only had 5 receptions, 48 yards in that first game against Philly. Carolina, there was no Greg Olsen, and you know how integral of a part he is as a tight end for that team, and he was not able to play. He was lost for the season already. Then you have New Orleans. Ben Watson put up 5 receptions for 71 yards last week, which is pretty good. And then they also had Mr. Hill, the second tight end. He had 2 receptions for 10 yards. And that's where they got it. But again, if you look at that, only 10, 11, 12 receptions. This is the reason why the DK points and the FanDuel points are fairly low. They're going up against Eifert, who has put up already 8.4 DK points and 6.5, as you can see here on FanDuel. So they're pretty much meeting his numbers. But again, this is a player that is targeted and is going to be targeted a lot more than the opponents they have played thus far. And the other thing also is, even though Eifert hasn't been in the end zone either, and as you can see, the other Ertz didn't get in the end zone, neither did Watson. At some point or another, they're going to definitely give him some points. I just like the matchup. I think that this is a good spot for Tyler Eifert in a high-scoring game. Red zone opportunities for the opponents on Atlanta, 81.8% conversion ratio in the red zone. Opponents are coming in, putting that ball in the red zone 3.5 times a game, and they're coughing up 3 TDs to them. So, I mean, again, Tyler Eifert, I could see him getting 5 to as many as 8, maybe even as much as 9 targets in this game, especially in a high-scoring battle here with the Atlanta Falcons. So, Tyler Eifert is my last tight end that I am looking to target this week. I'll definitely have some exposure to him in both my DK and my FanDuel lineups. We're going to discuss I got 2 defenses. I'm not big on the defenses either, but I do look for some very sneaky plays. This week I kind of like 2 teams that are probably maybe going to be a little bit under the radar this week. The first team I'm going to talk about is the Seattle Seahawks, and we've been knocking them. Even myself, I've knocked them a little bit earlier in the year, but Seattle's starting to play some pretty solid defense right now. At 4,400 here, they are 3,200. Let me just double check. Seattle went too far. Yeah, 3,200 on DK. And either one of the platforms is fine. I have no problem with it. I think you can play them in both of them. What I like about Seattle, man, they slowly but surely are starting to play better defense. As you can see, at the beginning of the year, they gave up 27 points to Denver, and then since then, they've given up only 18 to Chicago, and then this past week, they gave only 13 to Dallas. And when you look at their numbers, 8 sacks, 7 interceptions. The 7 interceptions are tied with Miami, for the most interceptions by a defense this year. And they have 1 fumble recovery, 15 fantasy points in the last game, and they've been averaging, as you can see, they averaged 7 in the first 2 games. I can live with 7 at this price. I would love to see 10 to 15 again, and I think they're going to have an excellent opportunity here. They are 17th overall in total defense this year, giving up 348 yards per game to the opposition. But they're going up against Arizona, and their offense is dead last. So you got a mid-tier defense in the middle of the pack at 17, going up against a team that only is averaging 190 pitiful yards total per game offensively by the Arizona Cardinals. So I'm going to keep picking on. I picked on the Cardinals last week. I'm going to keep picking on them until they did play a better game against Chicago, but nonetheless, they still lost the game. Arizona, they're going to have a tough go here against Seattle. Granted, they are at home. It's going to be a tough game for Seattle to go into Arizona and perform that well, but I think they got the momentum going. I think the defense is starting to play well, and then in a favorable matchup, this is a great opportunity. So Seattle is definitely someone in play for me. So that's where I stand, man. I really like Seattle. I think you definitely should take a stab at Seattle. I can see them getting a couple of sacks here and possibly an interception, against that team. They got the rookie who's going to be the starter this week, and Josh Rosen. Obviously, he's going to be a little bit nervous. If they could put a little pressure on the kid, you can possibly see a turnover or two here, maybe a possible interception, maybe a fumble. So definitely I like Seattle because of all those things. More importantly, because Arizona has just been very dreadful as an offensive team. The next team that I'm going to discuss, I would love to just stick it to these teams as well. I'm not big on New England. Don't like New England as a team. And I am going with, surprisingly, Miami Dolphins are 3,100, the cheapest team in FanDuel. They're not giving this team any respect. They're 3-0. They're going into New England. This is a big game for Miami. Miami's got to be me as the coach of the Miami Dolphins. We're gearing up to try to go out there and beat New England on their home field and make themselves go up 4-0. Imagine the Miami Dolphins 4-0 leading the East, the AFC East, and New England at 1-3. I would love to see that. So, I mean, I am more than willing to take a stab at Miami as a surprise, sneaky defense this week against this dreadful New England offense, because they're dreadful as well. I mean, we're talking about, all right, let's look at some of the numbers here. Well, Miami gave up 14 in game 1, 12 to the Jets, and 20 last week to Oakland. Overall, they're averaging 11.3 FanDuel points, and I'm sure they're averaging a little bit more than that. Let me find them here real quick. The Dolphins, they weigh down here only 2,000 on DK, averaging the same thing, 11.3. So I'm willing to take a stab at these guys, man. They've put up 13, and 8 fantasy points. One of the better teams as far as fantasy points in all of the NFL over the last couple of weeks. The lowest, they have 6 sacks and 7 interceptions. And I just finished reading that Seattle was my other pick, and Seattle and Miami are both tied with the most interceptions as far as the defense in the NFL this year. And they have 1 defensive TD. And nobody's giving these guys, any credit or not giving them any respect. They're going up against New England. New England is 25th in total offense and 25th in total offense. They're 26th in passing offense and 20th in rushing offense. Miami comes in 21st in total defense. They're 7th against the rush. They don't have to worry too much against New England. They need to just definitely defend them as far as the pass is concerned. Because Tom Brady, even though he has no weapons, he's going to definitely throw the ball quite a bit. But Miami, 29th in pass defense. I'm not even concerned. They're giving up 288 yards per game. And the reason I'm not concerned is because they're tied for the least amount of touchdowns being passed upon in the NFL. Can you believe that? They're 29th in pass defense, but they've only given up 2 touchdown passes all year. So the Miami Dolphins could be a very surprising play here this week, and they're dirt cheap in both of the sites. I definitely am willing to throw them in and sprinkle them in on a few of my lineups, that's for sure. And that's where I'm at. I really like I like the whole idea. Not only that, Miami, as you can see here, 15.3 points allowed per game to the opposition over the course of the last 3 games, over the course of the 3 games. So all those numbers, and on top of New England being so bad, New England only has 6 touchdowns all year. They were all passing. They have no rushing TDs. Their running offense is horrible. They're passing. They don't have nobody. They only got Gronkowski, and as long as you lock down Gronkowski, you gotta hope that Hogan or someone else steps up. Now Burkhead is hurt again. I mean, this is the year, man, that I think New England is not going to be able to survive, going, 1-2 or 1-3. If they go 1-3 right now, they're going to be in dire straits. I can tell you that much right now. So anyway, that's pretty much the bottom line. Those are my 2 favorite defensive plays. I think you can obviously play the top tier teams, that have the Philadelphia's in a favorable matchup against Tennessee. You could go either or with Philadelphia or Tennessee. And then Jacksonville with the Jets. You can go either one of those 2 as well. I'm a Jet fan. The Jets are capable any given Sunday to give somebody a tough go. Jacksonville did lose to Tennessee last week, in a baseball score. So I don't see that happening again this week. I think both teams will score a little bit But I think any one of those two teams you can go with if you wanted to pay up. But I gave you two excellent plays here. I think Seattle at 4,400 on FanDuel here, as well as Miami at the budget price, bargain price of 3,100, going up against New England, going into New England's Foxborough. I hope they just put a pounding on these guys and make them 1-3. I would love to see that. But basically, that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please drop a like. And most importantly, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe down below. Put on your post notifications. We have another video coming your way tomorrow, and then we got a live show Saturday night. I look forward to it. We're going to discuss, of course, again, all the plays that I've given you this week from every position, as well as any game stacks, team stacks, any implied total changes, anything pertaining to injuries, anything that will give us any value in any area, we will discuss. And of course, I will give my full attention to those who ask questions so that I can answer and give you the best possible information that I can give you when I answer your questions. All right, guys. So with that, I bid you guys a farewell. Again, everybody have a great night, and I'll see you on the next video.